Hazbin Motel is one of, if not the most successful indie animated show we've gotten so far. Created by Vivian Mardrano, aka Vivzipop, with the pilot released in October 28, 2019, the show immediately garnered a major fan base, also held by her previous popularity in the scene, especially with her Die Young music video. It follows the daughter of Lucifer, Charlie Morningstar, as she tries to help hell's souls rehabilitate and get into heaven. About a year later, it got picked up by A24 to get its first full season. A few years passed, and on January 12th this year, the show finally released with 8 episodes, and 3 more seasons coming soon. And as much as I love this concept and think it's cool that a show like this got this popular, I can't say that the show itself is very good. In fact, I think it's bad. And today I'm going to be going over why this show failed with the potential it had. Let's start off with the pilot, since it sets up the story of this show and it's still canon, unlike Hell of a Bosses, the other Vivzipop show that's on YouTube. The show starts off with a very nice silhouette art style that eventually leads into the show's actual art style. And while I don't think it looks necessarily bad, people's common issue with this show is that it looks cluttered and over-designed, which I definitely agree with. This has more to do with the character designs than the backgrounds, which I think look fine enough, if a little too one-note in colors. But for the designs themselves, we'll get a little more into that, since the examples aren't too egregious for this beginning. Since most of them are just background characters and other people that don't get properly established until the first season. We also hear the first song during this intro, because I forgot to mention that this is a musical. And while I don't mind musicals personally, I like a lot of other people, but thankfully for this one we started off pretty nicely. This is a cover of a Broadway song from the show Oh Look, titled I'm Always Catching Rainbows. For my Elsie Lovelock, we get a very somber song with some really good singing that contrasts the hell's dark environment, showing the events after this yearly extermination day from heaven. It's not amazing to me, but I do think it sets the tone very nicely for the show. It's kind of ironic that the show's best song wasn't even written for it. That's real great. After that, we get introduced to Angel Dust, a gay sex worker voiced by Michael Kovac, who, even though I don't like his voice for him, you can clearly tell he's trying. Also, this is where we get introduced to the show's biggest problem, the dialogue, which is basically just swearing and sex jokes 24/7. Not that I have an apparent problem with either, in fact I swear a lot, but that's just what happens naturally for me. This is what a huge majority of the show's writing and jokes come from. It's when single Angel goes off on this guy, it just sums up the whole show. This is an excuse that the show takes place in hell, so it makes it completely fine, but there's barely any variety to it. And beyond it being mind-numbingly repetitive, they're just not good jokes.
Truck so old, gotta run out the high when I play my music so the roof don't fall on me.
After Angel gets his drug stolen by a soon-to-be crushed robber, we see the city being blown up by Sir Penchik, a stereotypically over-the-top villain, voiced by William Andrew Stamper. I honestly think he's pretty cool, and he has a pretty fun voice. Can't say the same for the egg minions guys though. Then almost immediately we get introduced to Cherry Bomb. She's a very sassy type of character. I would say more, but her scene is way too brief right now. After a news broadcast, we meet Charlie and her girlfriend Vaggie, voiced by Monica Franco. We get more depth on Charlie's character and her motives, how she's super positive and really believes that sinners can go to heaven, while Vaggie's more negative but is still supportive of her. We also get a joke when she's talking to one of the news anchors that actually kind of works.
You're not here because we wanted you here. You're here because Jeffrey couldn't make it for his cannibal cooking segment.
And apparently Vivzipop isn't a fan of that one, because of course she isn't. Charlie announces her plans with the hotel to absolutely no one caring, so she decides that we get the second song in the pilot. Inside of Every Demon is a Rainbow, and this is the type of musical song that I'm not a fan of usually. It's obviously intentional, but I think it's too overbearing and peppy, and I'm not a fan of Charlie's vocals in this, especially when she's going into her highest register. And after the song, she gets an even more negative reception, because the song was also bad. And then she says a cuss word.
What the fuck?
We cut back to Angel Dust fighting with Cherry Bomb against Sir Penchik in a turf war, revealing that he's being paid by Charlie to be a guest at the hotel, and he doesn't like it very much to say the least. We get emoji sound effects. Thank! I feel like this is a good time to bring up another problem I have with this pilot, being the overabundance of sound effects. I don't think it's as much as a problem in the actual show, but it feels like every little action has to have one. It's like the equivalent to Mario and SpongeBob making random faces as a social comedy, except the faces aren't funny most of the time and they're just annoying. Or giant test with crash, but those are actually funny. As we see everyone about to fight each other, it cuts to Charlie, Vaggie, and Angel in a car. Vaggie and Angel get into an argument and Angel says something racist, which wasn't necessary for his character other than establishing that he's no good. They go back to the hotel, which is basically abandoned, and we do get a little moment of Angel holding out his hand for Charlie, showing that he cares at least a little bit, which is nice of him. After Charlie gives a call to her mom, we properly meet Alistair, voiced by Edward Bosco. We saw him earlier when Charlie was giving her speech, but he didn't matter much in the moment. He's a cool character and concept, especially for his voice filter, but I really don't care for him that much, honestly. He talks about how he wants to make a deal with Charlie to help the hotel just to see the guests fail. And after that we get a bunch of exposition of how evil he was, and a few different styles of animation too, which is cool. Charlie decides to let Alistair help, and we meet Nifty, voiced by Michelle Marie, who helps clean the hotel. And we do get an actually funny joke with her.
Which is weird because you're all ladies, no offense.
Also, there's some weird camera moves while she's cleaning, which we'll get into later. We also meet Husk, voiced by Mick Lawler, a gambler that then serves as the hotel's bartender. After all that, we get a song sung by Alistair, which is pretty decent. I also love the color choices for the animation. Unfortunately, it's short-lived since Sir Pinchas comes along and blows up a wall, but Alistair completely destroys him and his ship, and that ends the pilot of this show. Overall, this is a promising pilot with sadly a bunch of issues. Not going to repeat them all, but to sum it up, it's overly edgy with no real point, and has some pretty messy choices for effects and animation. It has a great premise and an occasionally solid moment here and there, but I didn't really enjoy this like I wish I would. In spoilers, this is the best the show is going to get. As I said before, the show was later picked up by A24 for 2 seasons, later to be 4, and unfortunately all of the voice actors in the pilot were dropped off in favor for more popular ones, which is why I wanted to bring up each individual voice for the main cast. Kind of sucks because this could have been a huge break for everyone here, and while Michael Kovac has been making a name for himself in indie animation, I haven't seen anyone else since. At the very least, they didn't just offer celebrity voice actors, and the ones that are popular at least have history in voice acting and musical theater. Now for Charlie, we have Erica Henningsen of the Mean Girls musical fame, Stephanie Beatrice voicing Baggy, who was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the main character of Encanto, Blake Roman for Angel Dust, who is pretty new as far as I know, along with Alicia's Amir Tulai. Alex Brightman is the voice of Sir Pinchas and another character who we'll get into later, and was also a voice actor for the other Busy Pop show, Hell of a Boss. Husk is voiced by Keith motherfucking Davis, who has done a lot of voice acting, but I know him most for his roles as Childs from The Thing and Sunny in Tales from the Hood. And Kimiko Glenn is Nifty, who was Penny Parker from Spider-Verse. It's a pretty stacked list all things considered, and some of these definitely have me interested in seeing how they would compare to their originals. Now let's get into the character design problem I brought up earlier. My main issue with them is that they're almost all skinny characters with the same proportions. Vizzy Pop has been notorious for drawing people as skinny as possible. And a lot of people defending this say it's just an art style thing, but drawing body types does not include that. Along with the fact that they want to over design. It feels like they just threw together whatever idea that looked cool at the wall. Because everyone besides Charlie and Nip looks like an OC drawn by a 13-year-old. Also, a lot of these characters are meant to be furries, so it's very weird that most of them don't look like their respective animals. I guess Husk and Sir Pinchas do, but Charlie being a goat, Alistair being a deer, Angel being inspired, which is a little more obvious but barely. And most shockingly, Faggy being a moth is completely lost on me. How would you further fuck up such a simple design idea like that? I don't have much to say about the designs themselves. They mostly work fine enough for what they are compared to the originals, since they're majorly the same, so with small details changed. I guess Faggy's being drastically different is interesting, but I can't say that I'm a fan of it personally. I would say more, but there isn't much to say about them. They're not good, but barely any different from the original. Finally, talking about the actual episodes, we start off with Overture. We start off with another cool and different opening. We had exposition about the backstory of Lilith and Lucifer and how they got banished to hell. Lucifer wasn't much of a leader at all, while Lilith became so much of a threat that Heaven had to start exterminating angels to make sure hell stays where they are. This was being narrated by Charlie talking to herself, but Baggy was there the whole time, so it wasn't too weird. We get an advertisement of the hotel narrated by Alistair, and that camera problem I was talking about earlier is immediately more apparent. It feels like literal motion sickness. It feels like they're just focusing on random points of the shot. After Angel goes on a long tangent about him being a porn star, because the show doesn't have any jokes beyond the surface level sex jokes, Charlie gets a call from her dad saying the leader of the Angel Army wants to meet her. She then breaks out into her very first song of the season, A Happy Day in Hell, which is not a good song. In fact, I'm going to spoil the rest of them and say none of them are good. The best thing is it's somewhat okay-ish. And this is one of the weakest ones because it sounds like a bootleg Disney song. Also, I'm not really a fan of any of the vocals in the song, but at least Erica is trying hard as Charlie. Stephanie Beatrice, however, really sounds like she's phoning it in. I feel like this is a good time as ever to bring up how bad the voice acting in this show is. It wasn't amazing or anything in the pilot, but they were clearly doing their best in it. This one, almost everyone is either barely trying or can't do a good voice for the character. Besides Charlie and Sir Pinchas, I can't think of a single voice I like. Not even Keith David's Husk, whose voice I usually love. Also, the lyrics are just a bad contrast of happy music about fucked up stuff happening around Charlie. When the song is finished, we can finally meet Adam, voiced by Alex Brightman, and Lute, voiced by Jessica Vosk. Adam's entire personality is that he's an asshole, and not the well-written funny kind. And he says cuss words like a bad boy. And Luke just dick rides him. Meanwhile, Vaggie and the rest of the crew tries to make a new advertisement since Charlie didn't like it. Angel Dust is horny because he's a porn star, They expand on this later, but we'll get to that. A little back and forth from the two plots go by, and we get another song from Charlie. But it quickly ends, and it's instead of a song by Adam called Hell is Forever. It's a rock song because he's awesome and edgy and cool. It's a little better than A Happy Day in Hell, but I still find it annoying and lame. Adam tells Charlie that her plan is useless, and she goes back to the hotel disappointed. But the rest of the cast showed her a new advertisement. At least they tried to, because Adam decides to make the discrimination happen way sooner. And that's the end of the episode. There's not much to note, since this is basically every problem of the show overall, but I'll try not to overstate those problems and only focus on the ones we have in the individual episodes. But yeah, this episode basically has everything wrong with the show in one, just not done in a horror industry. Next episode, Radio Killed the Video Star, has more of a focus on a few secondary villains that mostly don't get any development over Adam and Alistair. Before that, we get introduced to Sir Pentious, who wants to fight Alistair again. We also get introduced to Nifty's one personality trait, meaning that she likes bad boys. She has basically nothing instead of, like, cleaning, I guess. We then finally get to meet one of the V's, Vox, as TV Overlord, voiced by Christian Bale. It sounds like someone puking midway through seeing Christian Bale. He gets a call from Velvet, voiced by Lily Cooper, complaining about Authority Valentino, causing a ruckus at a fashion studio. She's kinda cool, although I'm not a fan of her skin tone being gray when she's a black person. This is another problem we find with the show, that just about every person of color is grayed out. Baggy and Alistair have the same problem. Busy Bob has always been a weirdo, so this doesn't surprise me. But is it really that hard to give your non-white characters not the same gray tone? Anyways, we then meet Valentino, voiced by Joe Perez, who I fucking hate with a burning passion. Basically a badly written piece of shit like Adam, but even worse because he's extremely abusive and creepy and worsely written. He honestly had potential to be a good villain, but they fumbled the bag with him so hard. He has cool design, and is also the only non-white person in the show to not be gray. He gets to be blue, so that makes the mishandling of him even worse. I'll get more into that in another episode more about him, since he's the only one who gets more development out of the V's. Val is mad about Angel Dust leaving his home for him, since he's his biggest porn star. And Vox reminds him that he should not go cray-cray, because that would look bad for him. Val also tells Vox that Alistair is back, and then he goes cray-cray. We then get another song called Stay Gone, and although I'm still not a fan of this, I do at least like the verses of how they sound like smooth, genuine talking, while still being able to fit the meters and rhymes. I will give them this. It's a very clever way of songwriting. Doesn't mean that I'm a fan of how it sounds though. Kind of has the same problem as the other songs, just being lame sounding. Sir Pentious then comes back to be one of the new guests of the hotel, trying to redeem himself. Angel doesn't trust him, but everyone else does, so he becomes part of the crew. After some exercises, Angel gets sad because Sir Pentious is doing better than him. So he goes to his room to Valentino's voicemails and gets even more sad. This would be a nice emotional moment if it felt genuine. I'll get to why it isn't when the time comes. Angel decides he gets drunk and catches Sir Pentious trying to hide a camera around the hotel, and it's then revealed he was working for Vox to spy on Alistair. But so she sings us a song, it's called Starts With Sorry. It's not bad, I guess. I honestly do love Sir Pentious. He's the only character in the main cast that I care about this entire show. Such a fucking dumbass, but he's just so lovable. Alistair shits on Vox, and that's the end of the episode. Also thought this one was bad, mostly for the Val stuff. Outside of that, it's a somewhat tolerable episode, but I just can't stand that man. It's not really like I enjoyed anything in this episode outside of a bit of Stay Gone and Sir Pentious. Scrambled Eggs is the next episode of the show, where the focus is half on chest exercises and half on a board meeting Alistair partakes in. We started with Charlie fixing the hole in the wall caused by Sir Pentious, with him also showing up with another weapon because he's schizophrenic. At least he probably is. I kind of like that characterization of him, because it kind of shows that he's just paranoid about everything. And I also have early onset schizophrenia, apparently, so twinsies. Maggie tells him to get rid of his egg minions because they're messing up the hotel, and then he gets depressed because he's too codependent. She then tells Alistair to take care of them, which he agrees to do on his own. Charlie gets the people to do a trust fall, with Maggie taking the lead because she was told to. Everyone says something totally funny and in character, and they mostly get caught. We cut to Alistair, who meets an old friend named Zestial, voiced by James Monroe Eagleheart, who is a very minor character, but I think is pretty cool, even with his unfortunate grey outness. Alistair leaves behind the eggs, besides one by accident. Then we get to meet some other overlords that run the city of hell. We also meet Camilla, a weapons dealer voiced by Daphne Rubin Vega. They also get her out, sadly. They talk about the upcoming extermination, when Velvet shows up and brings them an angel's head. She points out that it was killed by their own weapons, and how they can fend out for themselves in hell. But Zestru doesn't think they should just go head in, so they argue. So Camilla sings her ballerina song or whatever, and gets interrupted by Velvet with her song Respectless. It also isn't bad, and is probably the second best one here. It would be better if it was just Velvet without any introduction. We cut back to Angel taking everyone to a BDSM center because he likes to have sex. Maggie doesn't like that, so she sends them to a turf war because she likes to be angry. And then her and Charlie have an argument and then she wants to go alone. We get another song called Whatever It Takes. It's wherever, I guess. Stevie's vocals feel less forced than they are on the first songs. Everyone is happy with each other afterwards, and Pretentious kisses us back. And that's the end. I actually didn't mind this episode. Definitely wouldn't call it good or anything. It has the same problems as the rest of the show, and the song's still unlisted. But I just found this one more tolerable and interesting. Maybe this show is actually getting better. It got worse. Way worse. Masquerade is such a disappointing episode because it's one that's meant to tackle abuse and hypersexuality, which could have made for a genuinely good episode. Instead of it getting a bunch of fetishy writing from people who genuinely ship Angel and Val. Like, how do you expect me to take you seriously when you do this shit behind the scenes? Even without letting mind. It's such a poorly written way of handling it. The episode starts off with Angel showing everyone an adult video, with most of them being uncomfortable with it. Hustle starts his work and they get into an argument. We get a glimpse of Angel being insecure and not being who he really portrays himself to be. We've seen in other episodes. He leaves the hotel to do another shoot, but Charlie gets upset and wants to help him. She walks in on him doing a shoot where we get to see even more of Val. And this is where the problems really start to show up. Everything about this whole scene just doesn't work. Even ignoring the shipping behind the scenes, it just suffers from the same bad writing the show has. The abuse that takes place feels like an edgy fanfiction more than an actual depiction. Instead of being uncomfortable, it just feels uncomfortable to watch, if that makes sense. Not to mention that the voice acting is like really bad in this. Usually the more intense and serious moments in shows and movies showcase the strongest performance of an actor. But here Blake Roman sounds awkward instead of genuinely threatening and sad. His Angel voice does not work at all. After that edgy Wattpad fanfic session, Angel tells Charlie to leave. There's moments like this that make me wish this wasn't tackled so badly. Because this could have been a really, very real and genuine moment. But the writing's written just so fucking bad. And after that we get a really, really shitty song. The very worst of the show. Even ignoring the lyrics of Poison, and how badly written and perceived they are by his own writers. This sounds like absolute shit. I love pop music, but I really don't think this fits well at all with the tone chose. It just sounds like the blandest thing possible. And again, I can't stand Blake Roman's vocals as Angel. It just does not sound good at all, and it doesn't help that he's covering shitty auto-tune. There's actually a live version of this while I think it's still bad. His voice works a lot more with the song, and it feels like he's actually trying to. So it's not like he's completely talentless. After the fetishy visuals, Angel goes back to the hotel inside for Hazbin. He starts to act sexual towards him, which is common symptom for hypersexuality, but every time he's done to Hus throughout the show, he's just been sexually harassing him. The show literally calls him out on this. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's ever handling for that. It's just a joke on this show. Angel goes out after a mental breakdown, and Hus is forced to keep an eye on him. He gets drunk with a bunch of mobster trucks, and one of them tries to spike his drink. Hus stops him and brings Angel outside and has another argument how Angel doesn't care that he gets roofied. His life as a porn star has absolutely crushed him to the point where he doesn't care. You could actually feel sympathy for him, because he clearly never wanted any of this. He just wanted to feel safe in Hell's environment, which is why he got with Val in the first place. He feels that he acts this way because he feels like he needs to, and maybe he could escape Val if he ends up broken enough. It's a moment of genuine sympathy. At least it was before Hus starts thinking about how much of a loser they both are, which is insanely calling him ridiculously stupid. Because he got I get that it's meant to be an empowering way, but why the fuck would you choose to make that ass adults write this? How do you think telling someone they're a fucking loser is supposed to help them in any way? How are you not a 10-year-old writing shitty Wattpad fanfiction? And if it wasn't for Keith David's voice being naturally charming, I would say this is worse than Poison. Because beyond Loser Baby's even worse writing, it sounds even worse. Just the same fake bullshit sounding tone as a lot of the other songs. I can't believe real people wrote this. After the song ends, the Mafia sharks find them after a really large amount of time, but then they get smoked. Angel and Hus make up and probably make out after the episode ends. Just an absolute waste of potential. Felt so fucking gross to watch and unfold, and I was so mad the entire time watching this. It's one of the absolute worst episodes of a show I've ever seen, and I don't hate many episodes or things in general. Now we're on to a better episode. Not a good one, but a better one. Although she doesn't want to because he's like Jeremy Jordan, we cut to him playing with his rubber ducks because he's oh so quirky when he receives his daughter's call. This time we get to meet Charlie's dad, Lucifer, and he loves his daughter, hashtag wholesome. He comes over and he's overly excited, and I do honestly think that Jury's voice acting is kind of fun and does save him from being too annoying, which he very easily could and still kind of is. He gets into an argument with Alistair where they start to fight over affection as a parental figure, where we soon get a song called Hell's Greatest Dad, which obviously I'm not a fan of, but I can see the potential in this one at least. It feels very similar to Stayed Gone and how it's Alistair fighting between another guy. The song ends with Mimsy, voiced by Sarah Stiles, and she is here to be annoying, despite her being less hateable than most of the cast. She's also the only plus-size person of the characters that remotely matter, so of course they treat her like shit the entire rest of the episode. She gives some backstory on Alistair and how he became the biggest threat in hell, and all of that. Husk goes to Alistair to tell him that he knows Minzy is only here because she needs something, which causes an argument between them. Husk tells Alistair that he's a pussy just like him, and he gets super scary and scares the bejeebus out of Husk. We see Lucifer, Charlie, and Vaggie on the balcony, where he tells them that he doesn't believe in Charlie's plan. And while that happens, Lone Charlie is trying to get payback on Mimsy. Lucifer tries to prove his point, and Alistair murders all the loan sharks. Charlie tells her dad that Alistair, who started helping the hotel for his own ambiguous plan, is more faithful than her own dad does. Mimsy talks to Alistair and then gets kicked out for being a tree trunk and not a twig. Charlie and Lucifer argue some more, causing them to sing a duet together about how much they love each other. Not bad, I guess. I don't really care. Regardless of the quality, this leads to Lucifer creating a gateway to heaven for Charlie and Vaggie to try to get heaven on their side. Ending the episode. Not a good episode, or even a middling episode. Mostly because of the reasonable Mimsy thing in this. They just treat her like shit for no reason. Even though they don't bring up her rate, we don't know why Busy Pop wrote her like that. The next episode, Welcome to Heaven, opens with Charlie packing her bags and Vaggie not wanting to go for whatever reason. That's not explained. Afterwards, Cherry Bomb, now voiced by Crystal Laporte, blows a hole through the wall to hang out with Angel. She's also Australian now for whatever reason. Angel wants to lay down since he had a hard day at work because of Val, but Cherry convinces him to come, and Charlie tries to make sure they're responsible and so he doesn't relapse on his behavior. Bribing her, of course. Serpentris meets Cherry and suddenly he has a crush on her for whatever reason. It's one of the few things that I don't like about him because it just feels really random. After Charlie and Vaggie get to heaven, we meet Sarah, voiced by Bettina Miller, and Emily, voiced by Shoba Narayan. We then get a song where the angels sing about how awesome it is to be in heaven. But the song itself is not awesome. In fact, it fucking sucks. It's probably the most superficial one on the soundtrack, which feels like it's meant to be intentional, but feels too proto to praise it for that. The good guys pass by Adam and Luke without noticing. They notice and they get real grumpy about it. Sarah teleports to them and explains that she only allowed these exterminations to happen because that would make heaven safe. After they sit down, Vaggie encounters Adam, and it's revealed that Vaggie used to be one of the Exorcist angels, and she was abandoned after trying to help Sinnershire. Not a bad twist in concept, but they hype it up like it's some shocking reveal. You can very easily tell she was one, just by design alone. One look at the other angels is extremely obvious. People are already guessing that when the pilot released. Adam threatens to tell Charlie about it, and then Charlie and Vaggie go record to see if a soul could be redeemed and go to heaven. Bring up Angel Dust as an example since he made a lot of progress, and decide to look over him too, see if he's actually being good. You see Serpentris trying to hit Cherry and failing miserably, and Angel is still mad about his day with Val. Cherry gets him to try some drugs while Husk tries to get him to not to, but in the end Angel takes the drugs. Charlie tries to argue that if you've never had a hard day and you want to go crazy, you're dumb as hell. And the crowd allows him to continue, causing him to say a cuss word. Holy frickin' cannoli. We cut back to the club where Angel tries to keep Nifty safe and tries to find her. Telling her she's a mess, she cries like a stupid idiot baby who needs to kill herself. Serpentris tries to just have sex with Charlie, fails and gets fucking raped. Like, what the fuck? I'm not surprised since these are people who wrote Masquerade, but still, why would you add this as a joke? Angel then sees Valentino at the club and decides to stand up to him. Once again, they wrote Masquerade, so this isn't done well. But Angel calls the rest of the crew his friends, so that's what really matters. And then Serpentris gets cut. As Adam's side is starting to lose, he brings up Angel isn't here right now, which honestly kind of backfires because then everyone is questioning why he isn't. We get another song called You Didn't Know that is also pretty bad and messy, especially with the Hell is Forever parallel towards the end. Also, Adam reveals to Charlie that Vaggie used to be an angel, which breaks Hardy's heart. They get sent back to hell, and after Sarah and Emily talk some more to each other, the episode ends. I thought this one was pretty bad. I just felt like it had the same problems as the rest of the show, but more aggravating with worse songs. Not much to really know at this point. Starting off Hello Rosie, everyone makes fun of Vaggie and starts to doubt Charlie more. Alistair decides to go into a room, trying to gaslight her into making a deal with him. They finally shake hands, telling that Charlie declined the pilot, allowing everyone in the hotel. Charlie tells Vaggie that Carmilla could help them, and she needs to go to her spot. They have a sad little gay moment, and then both leave the hotel. Charlie explains to Alistair about Vaggie keeping her angel secret away from her. Just before she gets to meet Rosie, the overlord of Cowtown, voiced by Leslie Kritzer. I actually really like her. You only really get to see her for this episode, but she's very easily the best character in the show. She's just so likable with a good design and fine performance from Leslie. After joking about Alice for being asexual, they try to get her help and the other cannibals' help to fight off the angels, which she easily agrees to. Then we cut back to Maggie trying to get into Camilla's spot. After starting to expose what she did on extermination day to everyone, she gets let in. They revealed why Camilla didn't want this to be public knowledge, because she didn't want her people to get hurt. After 90 seconds of trying to get her on the hotel side, she attacks Faggy and then we cut back to Cannibal Town, where Charlie needs to get every citizen to agree with her. Very hard to do when one of them is way hard to win over the rest, Susan. Charlie gets so mad at her that she says more cuss words, which is fucking sick and twisted. Coming back to Vaggie and Camilla, they fight some more when Camilla points out that she knew Vaggie was exes because of the X over her eye and spear. So they just openly admit that it was extremely obvious that she was one, and they still play it up like some big reveal. Are they fucking stupid? Anyways, Camilla tries to get her to fight Bella, which leads to another song, Out for Love, which is again, not bad at least. Charlie talks to Rosie and Vaggie, and Rosie assures her that she definitely still loves her. She also gets her to sing because the cannibals love singing apparently. And I think they just like any singing because we're already getting another song and it's really bad. Again, just really fake sounding like the rest. Charlie meets Vaggie back at the hotel and have a happy little gay moment, and when they walk into the hotel, they walk in and everyone trying to defend it. And they have a happy little friendship moment, and the episode ends. Bad episode, same reasons always, don't really care at this point outside of Rosie.
Oh, Alistair, I cannot wait to watch you get fucked!
I wish my mom was here to see this.
The cannibals seem ready to fight. Are we?
Get up, damsels! I shall...
Charlie gives a big speech about how she loves everyone and how they hope no one dies. And then she says something totally out of pocket, like saying they're all going to die. And then they get a drink because why not? After some final conversations before the fight, Serpentine tries to hit on Charlie again and fails again. But she becomes interested when she hears he has 2 dicks, because he's a snake. Charlie gets scared because she thinks she's going to lose, and Vaggie gives us a reprise of More Than Anything, except with worse vocals. We meet the exorcist in heaven praying for Extermination Day, and we get an immediately funny reaction to something he says from Adam.
Chill, dude. Fuck.
We finally get to the fight, and the angels get demolished as to start. Mostly thanks to Alex's shield. But unfortunately Adam punches it open, and they cut to Vox saying he's got a stiffy. Adam and Alistair have a fight of their own, and I do think the quote, "First man, next to die," kind of hard, but the fight itself is too interesting, and Adam ends winning in it. Some more fighting ensues, Adam gains the upper hand, which makes Serpentine try to attack him with his blimp. He finally scores a kiss from Sherry and starts to charge his death rate, but he ultimately fucking dies from a prick blast from Adam. Everyone gets sad, and Charlie turns these demon pet things that I forgot to mention into big ass dragons. One of them gets slain, which leads to Blue and Vaggie fighting. They cut back to Charlie again, who gets sucker punched by Adam. Vaggie wins her fight with Blue while Charlie gets rescued by her dad. He says a funny sex joke on accident. Ha ha ha. Lucifer fights Adam when Serpentine causes Adam to cast a laser beam that splits the hotel in half. Charlie almost also gets caught by her dad, and she casts a final blow that gets him underground. He has a whole monologue about how much he hates sinners, and he gets stabbed to death by Nifty. And the day is saved. They sing one last shitty song, and the episode is over. At least not before they shows that Serpentine actually went to heaven and he got blessed. Also that Charlie's mom was showing up there as well. It's finally the end of the show. It's truly disappointing that this ended up being bad, because this show had so much potential and clearly had a lot of talent behind it, but it just resulted in an edge fest with no real point with some truly horrible moments. I wouldn't say I hated it overall. There's some good concepts and occasionally funny moments, and there's a lot of little moments that do work, but it's buried beneath so much bad that I can barely bring myself to even care about those. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10 overall. Will I cover the next season when it releases? Probably not. I already don't think the show is good, and I probably won't even bother watching it in the first place. Will I ever cover Hell of a Boss? Also probably not. I do like the show more, but I'm still not a fan of it outside of a few episodes. And it would mean I have to watch more Busy Pop for a video. And I already got like too much Busy Pop on my fucking recommendation for this. I even make this and rewatch every episode and then edit every episode, even if I didn't like it. Because I thought it'd be fun to break down why the show failed. And it was. And it was also fun to write the script, and it's an exercise for my writing, which I definitely think I improved on here. So if there's one thing I can thank the show for, it's that. And we get more Keith David, obviously.
Can't let you go. Hide away, hide away from me. Hide away, hide away.